When it comes to Zebec, fundamentally speaking, I think the moment has arrived because they recently made a post showcasing the statistics of the mobile version of their super app. And I think it showcases something pretty, I guess, surprising in a sense where I didn't expect to see those figures, but I did see it. And I'll explain what I saw in today's video, even though I am not telling anyone to do anything. And this is just my personal opinion, perspective, and nothing I say is financial advice. So, as we all know, the Super App, when it comes to the mobile version, it launched in July when it comes to Zebec, right? But so far, we've seen that, again, ever since its launch back in July, there has already been 595 million Zebec, not in terms of the dollar amount, in terms of like the actual Zebec, that has been locked up on only the mobile version so far. Why does this matter? Well, it's because this approximately represents around 0.6% of the total supply, which I get it. It may sound kind of silly. It's like, wow, that's not even 1%. But we have to consider the mobile version launched just back in July, and we're already seeing that much progress. So I think that showcases that the moment has indeed arrived when it comes to the super app in terms of the mobile version, just because we're seeing that type of progress, right? So again, almost 600 million Zebec has been locked up on the mobile version of the super app so far, despite only launching back in July. That's pretty impressive. And again, sure, it's not even 1% of the total supply, but still around 0.6% almost of the total supply currently that is being locked up on the mobile version. I thought that was pretty impressive. And I think a lot of people sometimes don't really care about this because they're only focused on the price, but we have to think about it. People usually lock things up when it comes to this space if they think about it more so for the long term, right? I don't know, why would they do that? They could just leave, you know? But again, seeing that specifically when it comes to the mobile version, it feels like sort of this long time coming because remember when it comes to the mobile version, it was delayed by a couple months in terms of the launch because we saw the desktop version launch earlier on this year. But then the mobile version, I think it was supposed to come around like the middle of March, I believe, when it comes to the super app. But of course, there was a delay. It waited until July. But again, despite the delayed launch, we're seeing that much progress. So I think that's quite legendary. And we have to think about this. There's 10 supported chains already when it comes to the mobile version of the super app. Not to mention, they've issued over 4,000 cards. So we got to think about just the, progress that is being seen when it comes to the mobile version. Because keep in mind, the super app is really integral to Zebec just because Zebec, it felt very fragmented for quite a while, like in a sense where because Zebec is quite diverse, like in a sense where they have an aspect of payrolls, where they have an aspect of cards and all this, it just felt like very fragmented. So of course the super app was a way to kind of combine all those aspects and put it under just one platform, right? And we've already seen the desktop version again earlier on this year. But the mobile version, that was something that was contested because a lot of people like to say, oh, they're never going to do it and all this because there was a delay. But now seeing these type of statistics, it's quite legendary, especially in 2026. Keep in mind, we're not talking about Zebec back in 2025 seeing these type of figures. No, this is in 2026. This is really tough to see at a time like right now. A lot of other projects out there, they're not going to see those type of numbers just because the sentiment isn't the best. But for whatever reason, even though Zebec isn't even in the top 100, I'm seeing these type of figures, which is quite surprising, right? But besides that point, I've already mentioned this before, but I think sometimes people forget about this. Zebec has almost 110,000 holders. In the beginning of this year, it had around 90,000. We got to think about that. Like, it's been steadily increasing when it comes to the amount of holders in regard to Zebec in 2026. That is like so just surprising to me because, I wouldn't expect that, but I'm seeing that as of right now. Now, if we take a look at it, has the market cap done much ever since my last video when it comes to Zebec? No, not really. The market cap's still around 160 million, kind of hovering around that range. Still around 3 times away from its peak last year in terms of market cap. But this is kind of my rationale, right? In a sense where I don't really mind things being low because I am looking to dollar cost average. But I digress. If we take a look at a lot of other projects out there, they're slowing down and leaving, right? But Zebec, they're taking this time to actually speed up their development, which is quite surprising. But I get what they're trying to do because while a lot of other projects out there are leaving the space of global trade and finance, Zebec is taking it as a time where, you know what, they're going to enter when there's not that much people focusing on it. So what happens if later the market takes off, right? That's kind of their mentality, maybe, I would assume. Or not, why else? So they have a partnership with Ripple and Stellar. Ripple and Stellar is literally the number one and number two when it comes to this space in regard to global trade and finance. So again, they had those partnerships with both Ripple and Stellar in 2026. They're not wanting to stop. And I've never seen a permanent bear market ever when it comes to this space. But again, projects could come and go. But if Zebec could make it through a market downturn, well, I'm going to Sizzler because I don't even need this to have an altcoin season, in my opinion. Because if, let's say, Zebec goes back to its peak last year, which is around a 540 million market cap. Again, the journey to there is around 3 times. Now, people like to say, well, that sounds so boring, though. Well, if Bitcoin went back to its all-time high, we're talking about around a 2 times movement. And that would be considered already very legendary by many people's, like, you know, sort of evaluation in regard to that. But this, going back to its peak last year, it's around 3 times. Who knows if it could do that, but I'm just saying, Zebec is better fundamentally than before. Now there is an aspect of ISO 20022. It has a partnership with Ripple and Stellar. The mobile version and the desktop version of the super app is actually already fully launched. So it's way better, in my opinion, than its peak last year. So if last year it was able to reach around a 540 million market cap, like let's say the market were to recover, Zebec with better fundamentals can't at least match that. You know, who knows? But I'm just saying, like, it was able to do it before without being as good as it is right now in terms of fundamentals. So it wouldn't surprise me if it maybe even exceeded that. Who knows, in a pure hypothetical, but I'm just saying. When it comes to Zebec, as of right now, I'm just still waiting. I'm still holding. I'm still dollar cost averaging approximately once a month. That's it. However, when I saw, you know, those recent statistics in regard to the mobile version of the super app, I thought it was quite legendary. And keep in mind as well, I forgot to mention this, but did you know that the monthly card volume when it comes to the mobile version of the super app is almost $6 million? Wow. I mean, that's quite impressive. I mean, if we're taking a look at that and we're assuming that, hey, you know, let's say those numbers was like, you know, consistent over the period of a year, that's like over 60 million on track, right? To see that over a 365-day basis, basically, if it were to continue at this pace. Will it though? I mean, we'll wait and see, but we're seeing these numbers right now in 2026. So what happens if the market were to recover? What happens if the market were to actually, you know, have a quote-unquote altcoin season? These numbers could look minuscule in the grand scheme of things, even though it already looks quite impressive so far. But I'm just saying, these figures look so impressive even for like an altcoin season standard, but we're already seeing it right now. So imagine what the numbers would look like if there was an actual hypothetical altcoin season in regard to the statistics. However, keep in mind though, good statistics doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the best in my opinion, but at least it showcases that, hey, you know what? You know, these Zebec products, they can actually compete. That's the way to take a look at it. Does this mean it's going to overtake Ripple or Stellar? No, I don't think so. But at least it showcases that Zebec, despite being more so of this mid-tier player when it comes to this space, it's still able to kind of, you know, showcase these type of figures in 2026, which I find to be quite impressive. But I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward though. So I want to say thank you so much for watching, and hopefully y'all stay tuned for future upcoming videos. It's been Lee the Captain.